Welcome to Fortune Friday. My name is Connie Vanderzanden. I am a cash flow and business mentor. And today I am joined by Isha Cogborn, the founder and CEO of Epiphany Institute. Epiphany Institute is a personal development firm that helps people connect their purpose and passion to their profession. She specializes in helping coaches, consultants, authors, and other experts build their platforms and personal brands so they can make a bigger impact on the world. She also has two podcasts, Clear Talk and On Purpose with Isha Cogborn. And she is the author of 5 Rules to Win Being You and On Purpose, Practical Strategies to Live Your Best Life. And just so you know, she is my business coach that I enjoy working with. And there are top three things I really enjoyed from our conversation today. One is we talk a bit about, as a parent, how she's helping her son shift the money story and learn how to build generational wealth. We talk about the power of setting intention, which I think is crucial to setting your financial plan. And stay tuned to the end where she'll give you an inspirational kick in the ass to dream big. I hope you enjoy the conversation today. Here's Isha. Thank you for coming to Fortune Friday, Isha. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to hang out with Connie.
Yes, thank you. So first, what would you like the listeners or watchers to know about you?
Well, I am, I'll say someone who did not know I was going to be an entrepreneur. I started my business 11 years ago, media background, spent years in corporate. I did not see this path for me at all. But the biggest thing for me was that I realized that the work that I had to do, I had to go build. And it really ended up being the pathway into my purpose, which is helping other people to connect their purpose and their passion with their profession. And I do that a couple of different ways. One is by helping people to share their message on bigger platforms so they can make a bigger impact. So people who want to speak more, who want to do media, who want to write books, who just know there's something bigger inside of them and they've got to help more people with it. I am that catalyst to helping you to be able to do that without being overwhelmed. And I also have a support group for entrepreneurs called Startup Life Support, although it's not just for newbies. But entrepreneurship is not easy. And so this is a group where you can really come together with other folks like you who are looking to build their dreams, but you're surrounded by folks who get it. And you don't have to act like you have it all together. You can be transparent and really support each other, kick each other in the backside when you need to hold each other accountable to doing the things you said you were going to do, and celebrate each other's wins. And so that's me. I love entrepreneurship. I love seeing people able to do what they love and to make a living doing it.
Awesome. I was reading something that there is a spike in, even through right now we're recording this, COVID is still happening, but has been a spike in business licenses being taken out of starting businesses during this. And I think you spoke to it, was that desire to be an entrepreneur, to take your passions for what you do and go out in the world and do it yourself rather than being under somebody else. So.
And I tell you, and just this whole thing, like I've been talking about this for probably, 15 years or so, but just as we saw the trends starting to happen where things were starting to move offshore and companies were starting to use more and more contractors to get work done. And then of course the gig economy, all the other stuff came, but we saw these trends 15 years ago where we knew, all right, this secure being able to go and punch somebody's clock forever and know you're going to have this paycheck and pension, we knew that was going away. And so I'm just glad I had the foresight to know, all right, let me start looking at myself as the business, even when I was still in corporate, and then to position myself to understand what my value was outside. And so with the uncertainty of COVID, a lot of people who didn't get that before, they certainly get it now. And of course, there are a lot of other circumstances that are just forcing people to stay at home. My dad was still working full time And he quit his job because he just doesn't feel safe going into people's homes. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the one thing that a lot of people, as they first step into entrepreneurship, you led into it about giving up that security of the paycheck and the pension and the health insurance, if that was available. And so money, which is what we're here to talk about today, is that thing that sometimes we don't think about when we make the move. When we might save, we might consider what debt we might need for startup or how much we might need, but we don't consider long-term of what money's impact is. So let's start at the beginning, though. What was your first impression or experience with money, and how did that influence your being raised?
my first experience with money that I can remember is this whole notion that spending money is something that you do for fun.
Ah,
I can remember being about 3 years old, and I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother on the weekends. And Saturday morning, she would wake you up before the crack of dawn. You had to get up, get washed up, have breakfast, because we had to be at the mall when the mall opened. When it opened, because that was when you were going to get the best deals and have the best selection. When it opened. And we would shop all day long. And then she'd have all the circulars from this, the newspaper on the seat of the car, and I'd be flipping through them and tell me where the tomatoes are on sale, who has the toilet paper on sale, and we would have to bounce between 2 or 3 different grocery stores. And this was not out of practicality. This was a sport for my grandmother. So she was single. She made a decent salary for herself as a factory worker, and she owned her home. And it was, for her, it was okay. You work hard all weekend. On the weekend, you go and you reward yourself by getting stuff. And as much as I hated it when I was little, because I just wanted to stay at home and sleep in and watch cartoons, what did I do when I got my first job and I earned my first paycheck? My first day off, I was in the mall because I worked hard and I deserved some stuff. And shopping was fun. And so that was my experience. But then on the contrast of that, my dad was, or my grandmother was shop, shop, shop. My dad was save, save, save.
ooh,
And he didn't, he would buy me a toy maybe once a year. And I remember it because it would maybe even twice, but it was a big deal because it's like, okay, we're going to go to the store tomorrow and you can pick out something you want. And it would, I had to really think about it because this didn't happen very often. But, and I remember family members, making fun of my dad and calling him cheap. And I remember somebody in my family even saying, well, he became a Jehovah's Witness so he wouldn't have to buy Christmas gifts, So I had that influence. I'm hearing, shop, 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 that's good. Save, 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 that's bad. But what I didn't realize is my dad was being very disciplined, and he didn't make a ton of money, but he saved. He made sure he had a good emergency fund. We went on a vacation every summer, and like the kids that I grew up around, a summer vacation was you get to drive down south and see your relatives, where my dad would take me to Disney World. We'd get on a plane, and nobody, even most of the adults that I knew, hadn't been on a plane. And so that was major. But the only reason he was able to do that is because he was disciplined with money. And I so wish I would have, instead of hearing save, save, save is bad, I wish I would have taken more from his example earlier on in life.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one thing we're missing, is that as kids, we're witnessing what our parents are doing with money, but there was never really, unless you were raised by an entrepreneur, you never had a conversation about money. So now that you've had those two, the spender and the saver, and really he was a strategic saver because he was really living for the experience of it. That's how he was relating to money. You have an adult son, Dion. Do you guys have conversations about money like this, or what?
We do. Matter of fact, we had a conversation about money today. And in fact, we actually even sat in a class together.
Oh, wow.
Was focused on building generational wealth, and what are the things that we need to be doing to get out of debt, to diversify our income, to protect our assets. And so he's 25, we're sitting down, we're having these conversations, but beyond me saying, hey, this is what you should be doing,
Right.
it's let's sit down and let's do this together. And he was a little discouraged because he's thinking to himself, I've got student loans, I don't make a lot of money, I'm in bad shape. And I'm like, no, if you get this stuff now at 25,
Oh, wow.
you'll be a millionaire by the time you're my age. And your life, our family tree is going to look so different. You're not in bad shape now. You've lived the typical life for somebody your age, but things can be very different. So this is something we've always talked about.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, because what you learned from your grandmother was that paycheck to paycheck mentality, which a majority of us were raised in. And so it was to earn money to spend, And then kids got raised in an area where credit cards and debt was easy to get. And so we got more things. And so, what was lost in all this was the intentionality. I think maybe when your grandmother was younger and it was a more cash society rather than debit cards or credit cards, there was probably more intention of how she was spending it. At least that's what I remember from my grandmother about saving things and piggy banks and different stuff. But Dion's of an age that people don't do that now.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, she was everybody's bank, though. If anybody needed anything, if anybody was in financial trouble, she always had a stash and she could take care of you. She'd make sure that you were okay. You need that down payment for your car or you're behind on your mortgage. She took care of everybody in the family that needed it. But all I saw was spend.
Spend.
And it's fun.
Yeah. Well, spenders enjoy using money to help other people too. But so what you didn't see was behind the scenes, she was still saving. So perhaps, was that your dad's mom?
No, it was my mother's mom, actually.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate, I can see how both stories had influence on you.
Dragged out like,
So most people think there's a difference between numbers and money. So do you have what's your feeling of money? Do you like it, dislike it, avoid it? Of numbers, not money.
Well, I used to think when I was young that I disliked gym class, but I realized that it wasn't that I disliked gym class. It was that I just wasn't good at most of the stuff that you did in gym class. So I didn't run very fast. I was uncoordinated and I never figured out how to climb that rope that you had to do for the presidential fitness test. So I didn't like gym class. And for me, numbers, it was kind of the same way. I wasn't good at numbers. And so, or the things that went along with it. So I thought I didn't like it, but it was really just a matter of there's a knowledge gap there that you've got to close. And once you close it, it won't be so bad.
I love that. I don't think anyone's ever explained it like that. I mean, I think most people are encouraged at a young age either to really love numbers or dislike numbers, but entrepreneurs do find that learning opportunity. I think that's part of the mindset difference between a small business owner and an entrepreneur is that the ability to look at obstacles and learn from them too, so they can grow and move forward. So that brings us to the next question of a lot of businesses have a roadblock. Usually it's around money, numbers, planning, or something like that. Is there one particular one that you can think of that kind of started you on a different journey or made a big difference in your business?
Well, for me, it was, money was a big part of the challenge for me. And in particular, still going back to that saving versus spending. And, I'd see money come in and just not having a plan for it. So it's like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, and not really thinking about what's on the horizon, what do we really want to do. And knowing that I wasn't naturally good with numbers, I knew I had to get help. And so, I fought with it, and I thought just, okay, one day I'm just going to wake up and I'm going to do better because, I need to sit down with my numbers. And I made all these excuses. At first it was, well, my computer screen is too small. I can't read it. And, it's like, well, let me put my glasses on and figure this out. And, I can't see it. Then I literally bought a new printer so I could print my financial reports on tabloid paper, because I'm like, well, if I can see it better, then this won't be such a dreadful exercise. Then I got a second monitor. So I went through all these mechanics because I thought, well, that's all it is. But I realized I needed to have help. And something as simple in the beginning as having a pre-formatted spreadsheet to do my projections on and to look at my spending plan. Like something as simple as that was a lifesaver. But then as I progressed and started to realize, okay, there are some specific goals that I need to be working towards. I can't do this by myself. I got to get some help. And I need that accountability. I need somebody checking in on me to say, okay, you're doing good, or okay, let's tighten this up, or and even just knowing that you got to show up and you got to have this conversation with somebody makes you do better.
Mm-hmm.
So getting help around money was, it was a complete game changer for me when it came to that.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes. We all need a coach in some shape or form for a lot of different things in our lives. So you got some support. I love the idea too. It's so much easier when somebody else gives you a nice spreadsheet to fill in. I found that's really all clients would like, a spreadsheet that adds and subtracts for them automatically, so they don't have to learn two skills at one time. So you talked about that money. You started having goals with your money. You started having things that you wanted money to do for you. So what would you like money to do now? And then how are they related to your business goals? Does that make sense? Probably doesn't.
No, it does. It does. And one of my big goals around money, that I need money to help to make happen, is I want to launch an incubator in my hometown in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And that really goes back to the beginning of my journey. And I got laid off, literally started a business the next day, and trying to figure out what I was doing. And it was really a challenge. And I want people to have access to the resources they need to be able to start their businesses on solid ground, and to not let the lack of knowledge around money or anything else be that hindrance that keeps them from stepping out and doing that thing that they want to do. Because I started, but it was a mess. There were things that I was good at, and there were things that I was terrible at. And one of the things with money, I'd sit down and I have my plan on paper. Okay, our revenue goal for this year is $250,000. And so these are the services we're going to offer, and we're going to price them here. And I need to sell so many of these per quarter. And I have it all broken down. And then I never look at that sheet again. Never again. Yeah. So there were no definitive plans. I didn't know, okay, well, how many conversations do you need to be having? How many leads do you need to come in to be able to actually close that many clients? What does your marketing strategy look like? I may have the marketing strategy on paper, but am I actually executing it? So all of those things. And I remember, after, being in my business full time for 5 years, and things getting ugly and having to go back to work. And before I went back out into full-time entrepreneurship, I had to develop that level of discipline to where I was paying attention to my numbers on a regular basis and doing the things that I had to do routinely to actually hit them, and not just leaving it to chance, not just praying about it, not just trying to manifest it, but no, this is what the work looks like.
Yeah.
Do the work. Yeah. Pray that everything else, lines up so that I get what I'm expecting, but I got to do my part too.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, but it's definitely money loves attention. And so if we don't pay attention to it, or give it a drive-by glance as here's the money, go deposit it, but it might be already spent. in my opinion, money gets confused. It doesn't know what's going. So it loves for you to like shower attention on it and praise and look at your plan. Do you do that on a regular day now, or did you create a habit around it?
I probably, well, I'm looking at it right now. I've got a whiteboard where I track my revenue metrics that sits right in front of me. So as I sit at my desk, anytime I look up, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what I need to be working on in the month. And then at the end of the month, then I'm actually tracking the numbers. But, one of the things, and you hit it, you said it's both, there's the spiritual component and then there's the physical component. But I think we tend to be in one extreme or the other, and we don't do both. And I was just telling my son this morning when, he felt frustrated, like, well, I have a negative net worth and, this and other. I said, well, you know what? But when you set your intentions around what you want, then you will be amazed at what comes to you that you didn't know. You may be thinking to yourself right now, well, I don't know how to add additional streams of income, but set the intention, know what that number is that you need, and then watch things happen. But you just got to make sure you're doing your part.
Yeah, I love that, because that is the first thing. So it's awareness of what you want to create. How can you add to your life? I don't think enough people, me included, were willing to dream and like really ask, like, what would it look like? Most of us were learned to bare minimum, like, what do we just need to get by? That's all we need. But to really dream, because money is that resource that helps us do bigger things, like your incubator. And then what would that look like? We're just playing with numbers. Yes, it might feel like Monopoly a little bit when you're playing with those numbers, but it gives you an idea, gives some foundational pull. That's where the numbers come in, to give you a foundational of like, oh, this is what this dream or this next step might look like. All right, now what do we want to create? And we don't ever know. We don't ever know right there, but it's right behind. That's where the faith comes in, that now that we've said this is what we'd like, we have to let our hands off the wheel a little bit so that the next opportunity can show up. And so we can walk through that door and say, yes, this is where we're going to go next. But faith, I think faith around that is a little harder to have.
Yeah. But I tell you, it just amazes me. And I said, I've got to be a lot more intentional about saying what I want. Because more often than not, Connie, I will tell you, when I say what I want specifically, I get it. I mean, down to, I remember getting ready to buy my first home and saying, here are the specific things on my wish list, and getting everything on my list. And I'm thinking, well, doggone it, why didn't I ask for a fireplace? When I say this is what I want, this is what I get. But we we just dream too little, because we're trying to figure out the how.
Oh yeah.
It's just, what's the first step? Just focus on the first step right now. And when I've done that, it's not so overwhelming. And then I figure out, who do I need? Okay, I need a Connie. I need, what do I need to help me then develop a more concrete plan and to do the things that I need to do to work towards it.
So your business goal is an incubator. Do you have a personal goal that you'd like money to help you out with?
I do. I want to take my entire family on a vacation every year.
Wow.
And I've got, I think, like this is bad, I don't know the number, but I just had some new ones too. I think like 14 nieces and nephews, and so there are a lot of us, in my immediate family. And I just want to be able to do that every year. Like whether we go and rent a big vacation house and spend a week up there, and but Auntie Isha pays for everything, and your parents are there. I mean, that is something I want to do. And I've done that. I've priced it out. To say, well, instead of just saying it, like, okay, well, what would it cost for me to do that every year? Yeah. And so I know the number.
Yeah, well, you got to do that. And like, if you want to go to Hawaii or Disney World, it's helpful to price it. And did you have fun? Did you have fun pricing it out though, and imagining what it would look like?
I did, and it's a big number. And it's still one of those things, like, I guess not like, oh, I just need to do this one little thing and then I'm going to be, no, like, we're not even close. Let me just be clear on that. We are not even close.
Yeah.
But I know because I've set that intention, I know the number.
Mhm.
I'm giving myself 2 years, and I believe I'll be able to begin doing that on an annual basis.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story about your entrepreneurship, that desire of also that piece of where we come out of entrepreneurship, we don't always know what to do, and that how we learn from our opportunities, and especially that usually comes around money and numbers and how to hire somebody. Uh, I always like to end on an inspirational thought or message because I want people to be inspired to go one more step. So, do you have something for the listeners today?
I think the one thing I would want to leave people with around money is to just dream bigger.
Ah,
I mean, when I think about my life, none of it is supposed to look like what it looks like today. I got pregnant a week before my 18th birthday. I lived in subsidized housing. I was on welfare. I was, making barely over minimum wage. And I've lost even after I, came out of that, went to college, got a good paying job, but got laid off, started business, got back to the point where bottom fell out of that. And I ended up going from making six figures to, bumming in my friend's guest room and catching the bus because my car burned up on the side of the freeway. I mean, so life happens to all of us, whether it happened to us when we were young or it happened to us last week. But we can't let the fact that life has happened keep us from continuing to dream.
mhm.
And you can't let the scars of what has happened in the past or what you've seen happen to other people keep you from wanting more. And the biggest thing for me is to recognize that when I'm successful, like this isn't about me. Me making more money isn't about Isha being happy. It's about being able to write big checks. It's about being able to invest in other people's businesses and other people's dreams. It's about being able to take care, fund the causes that I care about. But you can't do that when you're settling for, well, I just need to make enough money to pay my bills and, do a couple other little things and I'll be content with that. No, because this isn't about just your contentment. You are here for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And you got to tap into that thing and then recognize the role that money plays in that. So even if you don't care about money, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't care about money.
Right.
Because in my mind, it was like, well, it'll always come. There'll always be more of it. I'll always have what I need. So I didn't care about it and I didn't respect it the way that I needed to.
Mhm.
But when I started to realize the role of money and me being able to live my purpose and me being able to make an impact in other people's lives and in other people's dreams, then I realized that I had to get it together. Like I couldn't continue to fly by the seat of my pants. I had to give money the respect that it deserved and to really shore up those bad habits so that I could live in the full capacity that I was put here for. So I encourage you to do the same thing, no matter what you've seen, no matter what you've been through, no matter how many mistakes you've made, keep dreaming bigger.
Ah, beautiful. Okay, that'll probably be the best ending ever. Thank you, Aisha, for joining me for Fortune Friday interviews. It was a pleasure to be in your space and in your energy because you do encourage all of us to step up and dream bigger. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Connie. And I love what you're doing. And it's so important because if your money's a mess, you can't accomplish all of those things that you were put here to do. And if you need help, get help. And I know personally that Connie is a wonderful person to get that help from.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for watching my interview with Isha Cogborn. If you'd like to know more information about Isha, you can check her out at www.ishacogborn.com. And if you could do us a favor, please like, share, or subscribe to our YouTube channel or where this video is being shown. It would really help us get the word out and make a bigger impact. So until next time, see ya.